was Lidenbrock. He was a famous geologist at University of Hamburg. Who is the narrator of the story? He is Axel, the professor's nephew. Why did Axel live with his uncle, the professor? What did he do? He lived with his uncle because his parents died. What was Axel's job? He worked as the professor's assistant. What made the professor go back home early? He was excited because he found a fantastic book which was more than 600 years ago. What did the professor find in the book? He found a piece of parchment in it. There were single letters written on it. Number 7. What did the professor at first think about the writing of the parchment? At first he thought it was written in runes which are all the Icelandic alphabet. How did the professor conclude that the parchment was written by the owner of the book? He noticed that the writing of the parchment was different from the writing of the book, so he concluded that it was written by the owner of the book. How did the professor know the owner of the book? He used a magnifying glass to see letters bigger. Who was Amundsen's? He was an Icelandic scientist of the 16th century. He made great discoveries. What did the professor guess that the writing was? Why? He guessed that the writing was in Latin because scientists of the 16th century wrote their discoveries in Latin. What was the professor's early exciting? He was early exciting. He couldn't make any sense of the writing of the parchment. What was the old book of the professor found? The old book was translation of a famous Icelandic book which was written by Snorri Sturluson in the 12th century. Why couldn't the professor Lidenbrock understand the parchment? Because the letters were mixed up and they were written in a secret code. What do you think, or what did he think? The parchment was newer than the book, because the writing on the parchment is later than the writing of the book. What did the professor Lidenbrock use to make letters bigger on the parchment? He used the magnifying glass. Why did the professor Lidenbrock think that the message was written in Latin? Because scientists of the 16th century wrote their discoveries in Latin. Why did Martha say that he will starve? Because the professor Lidenbrock went without his dinner. What was the professor Lidenbrock doing in his study? He was looking at the old book and he kept opening and shutting it and thinking about it. How old was the book? It was about 16 centuries years old. What kind was the book? It was translation of the Icelandic book. It was written by Snorri Sturluson in the 12th century. What fell off the book? A piece of parchment fell off the book. Who was Martha? She was the professor's cook. What did the scientists come to Lidenbrock? Why did scientists come to Lidenbrock? To learn from him. When did the story start? Later on Sunday afternoon in May in 1863.